A woman on a cruise was asked, "How do you like your cabin?" And she says, "Well, it's all right. I don't like the washing machine on the wall." And another passenger said, "Well, that's not a washing machine. That's a porthole." And the woman says, "Well, no wonder my clothes didn't come back." A man had a talking dog, and he took the dog to a booking agent to see if he could get some gigs. And the man says, "This dog talks." And the booking agent says, "I don't want to hear it." The man says, "No, listen to this. Rover, what do you call it that a house has on top of it that keeps the rain out?" And Rover said, "Roof." And the man says, "No, that's enough." The other man said, "Rover, what do you call it that a tree has in the ground and keep it from falling over?" And Rover said, "Root." And the booking agent protests again and starts moving them toward the door. And the man says, "Listen to this. Rover, who is the greatest baseball player of all times?" And Rover said, "Roof." At this point, the booking agent pushed the man and the dog out the door and locked the door. And as the man and the dog are walking down the corridor, the dog looked up at the man and said, "I should have said DiMaggio." What was that other joke we were going to tell? It was about a gold phone. A man in the White House saw a gold phone. Yes, you can talk to God in that phone. So he called up God and he talked for 3 minutes. "What do I owe you?" They said $300. A month later, that man was transferred to Israel. And he saw a gold phone. "Oh, yes, you can talk to God on that phone." So the man called up God and he talked for him for 3 minutes. And he said, "What do I owe you?" And they said $3. And the man says, "In the Oval House, they made me pay $300. And they said, "Over here," it's a local call. How are you doing with this chronology? We are up to the year 1985 to 1990. And Glendora is 57 to 62 years old. She is still doing very, very well, interviewing the cream of the crop, Fortune 500, CEOs. These are the men who wiggle their heads up through the thickness of the business world and came to the top. But they were kind enough to take a few minutes to tell the children how to be a success in business. And they would come to our house and we would video them, or we would go to their offices. And these were really prominent people, like the head of NBC Television, NBC Radio and Television Network, the head of Time Warner, the head of the Associated Press, and all, just very spectacular, dazzling names. And we also interviewed judges, federal judges and county judges, federal judges and county judges. And one judge we interviewed, one of the most likable, was DeRonco, Judge DeRonco. And he was so personable and so likable. And I called him up to tell him when he would be on TV. He lived in Pelham, which is right down the road from Harrison. And I called him up to tell him that I had a date that I thought he would be on TV, but I wasn't sure, and I would call him in a week to let him know for sure. And he answered the phone at home. And then there came a radio bulletin that a federal judge had been murdered. Guess who it was? Our darling favorite, Judge DeRonco. So I never did get to tell him the date that he would be on TV. And I had the last pictures of Judge Taranko. This was toward the end of his life, within a week. And this story was all over the news stations. Of course, a federal judge murdered. And I took the footage and I took it to WPIX and I showed it to a person who showed it to the news director, and they wanted it. And I think I charged them only $200, a valuable piece of footage like that. Then I took it to WCBS, and they wanted it. And I think they paid $200. And WNBC TV, Channel 4, and they paid $200. And I know Channel 5. I don't know about Channel 9 because I can't remember whether they had news or not. I kind of think they did not. And then I got it to Mrs. Taranko. Think what that meant to her. And it was a chat with Glendora, and it was a full 15 minutes, I think, of him with me and him alone. And my name was at the bottom of it. And that was only the second federal judge who had ever been murdered. The other one was in Texas many years ago. Now, I was a great fan of Robert Schuller at The Hour of Power. Who wouldn't be a fan of Robert Schuller? He was endearing. And I watched his program, and I watched it as it moved from channel to channel because of the terrible price of airtime, how much TV airtime costs. It costs terribly. And I think a spot on the 6 p.m. news, local news, WNBC TV costs $1,000, 30 seconds. It was a license to steal. And I called up the Hour of Power one morning, and a man answered the phone, and it was Robert Schuller himself. And then he came to Westchester to Stu Leonard's to autograph his most recent book. And I stood in line a couple of hours to get his autograph. Let's see what else.
Flyers?
Yes, thank you for that, dear friend. I was handing out flyers. I would go to Manhattan on the streets with Franklin and with a couple of people we paid to hand out flyers. You can have an ad on the WNBC Today Show for so-and-so, for something like $300. That's how the price had come down. You remember the $10,000 packages I sold? And I never did tell you about Franklin Chemical. That goes back to 10 years ago, from what I'm talking about. Franklin Chemical, we went out to Ohio, my mother and Franklin and myself, and we sold them a package on the 6 p.m. news and elsewhere in the great, wonderful New York market. And the price of that package was $67,000, and they gave us $67,000. It was a son and one of his associates. And we came home and we put the money in the bank, and we gave Franklin $1,000, and we gave Nancy Crosby $1,000. And then I called up the bank about something else, and the bank was furious at me because it had been stopped. The parents came home and saw what the son did and voided it. So that was a $67,000 loss. What was that you told me, honey? And I was going to tell them. What was that prompt you gave me? Oh, the flyers. We did that. Then what?
Letterman?
What, dear?
Letterman?
Oh, yes. One of the great, wonderful people I interviewed was the chairman, the CEO, and president of NBC, National Broadcasting Company, Robert Wright, a very, very fine gentleman. And he was kind enough to take time out of his very busy schedule. You don't know how busy those people are dealing with the crises that come before them left and right. And he took time out to tell the boys and girls how to grow up and have a career in broadcasting. And he also knew about cable TV because he had worked for Cox Cable. And around that time, within a week or so that I interviewed Robert Wright, somebody at NBC saw it and suggested that this would be a good interview for David Letterman. And lo, I get a call from David Letterman's talent coordinator and Margaret Smith asking me to be on Late Night with David Letterman. Well, I thought that was wonderful because I wanted to tell jokes. I had such good jokes, folks. Jokes that I was sure would uplift people and make them laugh and give them a jolly good moment. And so they picked a night when I would be on. And then they said they would send a limousine after me. Oh, and they paid you something like, I think they paid you to be on it, something like $200. And they would send a limousine after us. And I said, no, we have our own limousine, the 1980 Lincoln. And we have our own chauffeur, that would be Franklin. So they told us how to do the underground parking. And we went down to be on the Letterman show. And it was so interesting. And we sat in the green room and they put makeup on Glendora. Now, that's not right. That is very bad. That was a bad thing to do. She didn't need makeup for, nothing's going to improve this face. And, but they made her do it. And Franklin and Glendora sat in the green room and we watched the David Letterman show, and Franklin was the best audience that David Letterman could have. Franklin thought David Letterman was so funny. And then on the show that night, one of the guests was Rob Reiner. You remember Meathead in the Archie Bunker show? And when and the woman, another woman guest on Letterman talked so long that night that Letterman ran out of time, and he says, Glendora, who was supposed to be here tonight, will not be here tonight, but she will be here tomorrow night. And Rob Reiner he exited the set by going through the green room, and he said very compassionately to Glendora, well, I hope you make it tonight. He says, I hope you make it tomorrow night. He was very kind and gentle, very nice. And so the next night we did make it. And that video speaks for itself. Immediately after the show, the Letterman group goes behind closed doors and starts working on the show for the next night. Now, the show doesn't come on, until 12:30 or 12 o'clock or something like that, but they tape it at 7 o'clock. Well, that was quite an experiment. I will say about David Letterman that he is a consummate interviewer. Nobody can interview better than David Letterman. He can make anybody look good. Did you see him again after the show? Yes. You know how well he dresses? Well, right after the show, within 10 minutes, I saw him walk out of the closed doors, and he was wearing a brand new gym suit. I guess when they work so hard writing the next night's show, he wants to be comfortable. And then, of course, he helped onto the Hutchinson River Parkway, as I tell you, to go up to Route 7 near Darien, Connecticut. Do you have any more prompts, my dear friend?
Commercials in Connecticut?
Yes. We were selling these $300 spots, and in order to get the videotaping at the right price, we would go to Connecticut to TV stations where the prices were down and get the commercials made. We also had them made at ELA on the west side, which is now tremendous apartment houses, very rich apartment houses. I think that's all on that one. Then what else, dear?
Census?
Oh, Franklin, when the census came, Franklin worked for the census. He went down, they were asking for people to help, and he went down and worked for them, and he liked it very much. And when Franklin would hear Glendora start telling a joke, Franklin would start to smile. Now, Franklin knew the outcome of the joke because he'd probably heard him 10 times. But he knew that the people were going to enjoy it, and in anticipation of their laughter, he would begin to smile because he knew that they were going to laugh. What next, dear?
So you sold your 1950 car?
Yes, we sold the 1950 Dodge to a policeman in Rye.
Carmino cat.
We rescued Carmino cat. He had such a terrible cold, he could hardly breathe, and he was out there in the cold, cold winter, shivering, and his mother, and then his brother Harrison. And you've never seen such congestion in his eyes, in his nose, in his ears. But you know something? We pulled him through. What did you do? Did you give him Vicks? No, I just kept him warm. Kept him warm in the house until finally that congestion cleared and he was all right. You can see him in different spots. In the meantime, I was making Glendora a cheerful look at news, jokes, and I learned something that Bob Hope never could learn. I learned to tell jokes without an audience. I could look into the camera and I could tell a joke, and I didn't have to hear a laughter to know that it was good. I knew it was good. And that was something Bob Hope couldn't do. If Bob Hope didn't get a laugh, he was mortified. He didn't know what to do.
Italian?
Yes, I was in an Italian neighborhood. There were Italians. Everything was Italian. Everything was Italian. What else, dear?
Outdoor lift?
What, honey?
Outdoor lift? L-I-F-T? Lift?
Do you know what that is, folks? What is it, dear?
Let's skip that one. Lincoln dealer.
What?
Lincoln car dealer.
Oh! I was coming out of Finest, out of the driveway, going into the street, and a police car was entering, and I stopped. In that police car, there was quite a few seconds there, and that policeman waved me on, and I didn't move. So the next thing he did was to give me a ticket. Well, the ticket he gave me, he cited a law, but there was really no such law. So I contested it. I decided to go to court. And I went to court in Mount Pleasant, and it was a lady judge. And the policeman, I brought him, he had to come and defend himself. Guess what? It was dismissed. And then the Lincoln Mercury dealer charged me $350 to do a job on the front right wheel. I paid the money, but afterwards the car was just as bad as it had always been. So I went to court to get that money back. Did you get it back? Yes. And then the former property owner would not give us back our security deposit. And I found out by reading the Attorney General's literature that if the property owner took a security deposit and deposited it in an interest-bearing account, then the tenant was to get the security deposit back. So I went to court for that because I found the check. After 8 years, I found this check, and it had been deposited in an interest-bearing account. The judge said to the landowner, is this your signature? Yes. And that was the end. And we got the security deposit. And then I hired Cablevision in Harrison to make a commercial for me. And in the process, they erased the master of one of my other commercials. And I sued them for $300. And that was a very small price. But did you win that? Yes, I did. But Cablevision never paid it. They were thinking of appealing it. It would have cost them $1,000 to appeal it. And the person handling the public access in Harrison would take the Harrison van and the Harrison equipment that was supposed to be used for us public access producers, and he would go and cover football games and get paid. And he would keep the money that he got paid using all of Cablevision's equipment. So in my attempts to get an honest picture, that came exposed, and that ring was cleaned up. Their manager down in Yonkers and the public access director and one of his helpers, they were all fired. And the first thing that the new person came out from Long Island was to pay Glendora the $300 that those other people had kept. Where are we now, dear?
Rent $800?
Yeah, we did that.
Okay. Skunk.
I think we're done.
Skunk? Did you talk about a skunk?
The owner of the property had a garden. And one day I was out back and I saw the body of a skunk and no head. And I saw a trap and I saw a piece of lettuce in it. I was so upset about that. And then another day I was out there by the garden and I saw a skunk live in the trap. Well, I don't care. I opened that trap and let that skunk out, and I would do it again today. And this upset the owner of the property. What that little skunk for a little tiny slice of lettuce? He had to die? You don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. If we want lettuce, do we have to give our life for it? Is there anybody pursuing us? And
You're 24 minutes.
Oh, okay. That's good enough. Nobody's pursuing us and killing us. No. Just think of the little animals all their lives who are being pursued and scared and uncertain. Okay, do you have a joke?
Yes, you got haircut.
Oh. The barber said to his customer, "Where are you going for your vacation?" The customer says, "I'm going to Rome." And the barber says, "You won't like Rome. The beds are hard. the food is no good, and you'll never get to see the Pope. And the little man was discouraged, but he went anyway. And when he came back, Barbara says, "Where'd you go on your vacation?" And the young man says, "I went to Rome. The beds were comfortable, the food was delicious, and I did get to see the Pope." But Barbara says, "You got to see the Pope? What did the Pope say to you?" And the young man says, "He pat me on the head 3 times, and then he says, 'Where did you get that haircut?'"
Cutting edge.
A boy said he's on the cutting edge of technology. What does that mean? He mows the lawn at IBM.